Follow the Path. The Bears Grove is adult-level discussion of role-playing as a storytelling art at sambearpoet.com. Hello and welcome to another Bears Grove podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. Today is, I believe, the 15th podcast. So, once you get to 15, the rest is downhill from there, or uphill, depending on how you want to look at it. I really appreciate everybody listening who has listened. If you are listening to me and you have any feedback for me, please let me know. The only thing I'm not interested in is feedback about the sound, because I do the sound the way it is because this is how I can get it out to you. I can get the podcast done and I can send it out. Otherwise, if I don't do it this way, I'll just never get it out, and it'll be I'll start getting this cycle of being depressed about not having done it, so I can't do it. It's a pain, but this is kind of how it is right now, and I apologize profusely for the sound if it bothers your ears. I hope that you're going to be able to turn it down or whatever you need to do, but this is how I get to do it. So if you have anything else besides that to talk about, please let me know. I'm very interested. It's not that I want to poo-poo your ideas or your concepts. I'm interested in what's going on with you and what you feel about the podcast. If you can give me some information, I'd be grateful. Okay, moving on along. I got to play Into the Odd on Christmas. Into the Odd is a kind of like an OSR game. It's definitely within the original, old school rules kind of concept. It's a bit of a hack from that because it goes into, there's really just three attributes. There's strength, dexterity, and willpower. And that's it. That's all you get. I really enjoyed playing, and I will go more into detail about that game another day, because I've gotten notes and I want to look at them and prepare for that. So just so you know, I really enjoyed the game. I felt like there was a closure at the end of the game, but not a permanent closure, and it was just a lot of fun. And plus, it was kind of like a present to myself, because I got to go upstairs on Christmas Day and be away from my family for a little while and play, which, that's just great. I haven't been able to play much lately, so this was an awesome experience. So, on Monday night, I have started something. So, here's the situation. I'm embarrassed a little bit because, I was talking in one of my previous podcasts, and I'm sure I can look back and figure out which one, but I was talking about the concept of I wouldn't want to run games for money, okay? You will probably be able to find that I was talking about it as, I don't want to do that. Well, I changed my mind, and let me just explain why I changed my mind. I changed my mind because I am yearning for a group of people who get together and are serious about playing, okay? I want people who will show up religiously, who will make a home for the game in their lives, and I feel like if someone is promising to pay for a game, it's more likely, and truth be told, I have no idea if this is true or not, but I feel as though it's more likely they will show up if they are invested in the game financially, as well as, emotionally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it. So, that's what led me to signing up as a GM on startplaying.games. Okay? And by the way, if you've never played there, I've got a special deal where I can get you $10 off of any game. So let me know. The interesting part about this is after I was approved. And I had to go through a lot to get approved as a GM. It was several steps. After I was approved, I was placed in a Discord channel that I could then respond to games that were needing extra seats. And what that is you have 3 or 4 players, but you need 5, or you have 2 or 3 players and you need 4. What will happen is a GM will get on the channel and say, hey, look, I need some seat fillers for this game. And what that means is you get to play and you don't pay anything. You show up as a player, you don't pay anything because you're a GM, and you get to play. And I thought, okay, this will be a good way for me to get some experience as a player and also sort of learn how this whole situation works. And so last night I was on a game called Desolation. I was a seat filler, and it was basically session 0, although we didn't really talk about any safety tools, which I found a little disturbing. But whatever. So, it's a post-apocalyptic fantasy world, which, okay, fine. And so if you want to think about Mad Max in a fantasy world kind of situation, there's magic, there's elves, dwarves, all the different things. To be honest, this game strikes me a little bit as what they call in the indie game circles a fantasy heartbreaker, in the sense that it just feels like someone was like, you know what, I want to play D&D, but I want to play it in a certain way, and I'm going to spend a lot of time and energy creating this entire setting and all these character types, and I'm going to create these skills, and I'm going to make a big old map, and I'm going to play, I'm going to play the game the way I want to play it. But in the long run, it's not really, there's not much difference between it and a heavily modified Dungeons and Dragons. Okay? That is not exactly correct here. There is a completely different dice rolling system, and I didn't get a chance to really test it out because we didn't really have a single dice throw in the game. But I got the feeling that in the future, what will happen is, if I keep playing this game, I'm going to find out a lot more about how those interactions work, how the mechanics work. They seem to be a bit, I don't know, hard to explain. They're even odd, and there's a dice pool, but there's not, and I don't know. I need to figure it out, and I will report back on it once I do. But it was nice because I was actually able to put out, to sort of act and be the words that I was using earlier in a different podcast. Because I wanted, so what we had is we had a player who, we had one player who wanted to play a necromancer, okay? So necromancers, in just about every game that has necromancers, they are shunned. People don't like them. And they're kind of gross. And this is the way it is for just about every game system I've ever been a part of. But he wanted to play a necromancer. And magic in this game is really crazy, chaotic, bad. It's dangerous because magic is broken. And, you don't want to... It's a lot like wild magic, I think. And you don't want to just randomly cast spells because you might die and stuff like that. So what I did was I was thinking about that guy, that necromancer fella, and then another player wanted to play a mongrel who, it's basically a species of creature that is, kind of like a shifter in D&D 5th edition, in the sense they don't actually shift, but like you take lots of pieces and parts from other creatures and you sort of jam them together, and that's your mongrel. And, by the way, I just got to say right here and now that I don't like the idea of a mongrel race. There's been too many slurs, and this is serious. There's too many slurs out there where you call someone a mongrel, okay? So I didn't like that at all. Like, at all. Call them a mutant, maybe. Call them something else. A multi-blood, or I don't know. But it just didn't sit well with me, calling them a mongrel. But anyway, he had this sort of skull face, and he had claws, and he was depressed, and he was a loner, and he was completely a criminal, and he didn't care about anybody but himself. And so how are we going to get this guy into the game? How are we going to incorporate these two players into the game? And I was feeling like, okay, for myself, I need to provide a way to like link these guys together. So I played a character who really wants to help people, and kind of like me as a person, as a real person. I like to help people. But, and that goes back to another thing I said in another Bears Grow podcast, right? So, anyway, suffice it to say, I figured out how to link these two together with me and give them a place to stay throughout the long winter, which, by the way, giant night of fire followed by a long winter. What does that sound like to you? Nuclear war? Probably. Okay. We went through the long winter together. Everybody knows each other now. We know that the Zod is the name of the mongrel. We know that Zod is a killer. We know that he is lazy a little bit. Like, okay, let's just call it efficient. And he's kind of an impulsive fella. So we have to work with that, but he's also depressed, and he really just wants to have comfort in his life. And then the necromancer is committed to being a necromancer, but has started to learn the healing arts. And my character was like, look, I don't care if you're a mongrel and you're a necromancer. Necromancy, okay, fine, it's not my thing, but if you need that, if you want to do that, if that's going to be your thing, okay. And it turns out the necromancer wants to rebuild civilization in a manner of speaking. So, I'm all for that because that helps people, right? My goal is knowledge as a character. I want to learn more about what's going on in the world. Eventually, I would like to know why the big boom happened. But, it's not like an end-all, be-all thing for me. I'm more interested in just surviving and helping people survive. And so I've got a lot of survival skills. I've got some crafting skills as a farmer, as a leather worker, and so on. Apparently, one of the things about this game is that there is a definite, like, your goods, the things you're carrying, the things you use on a daily basis, they wear out. They wear down over time. And so it's a pain in the ass. I guess I'm just going to say it right like that. But if you have crafting, you can remake them, you can repair them, you can repurpose them. So that's what I was looking to do, is to be that guy, to be the person who's, repairing, repurposing, whatever. We haven't actually played yet, like a real game. So I'm going to probably give it another shot on Monday. And curiously enough, what happened was there was a guy who really just wanted to play this game like nobody's business. So he's actually paying for a custom game. He's paying for this DM to run the custom game for him because he wants to play this game. And we're all just sort of riding along with him. So it's interesting. It really is interesting. There's a few games in the world that I would be willing to pay somebody to play with me, like, Amber Diceless, something along those lines, or some other game, maybe even a play test of one of my games. So, it makes sense, right? It makes sense. Anyway, so that's my story. I'm sticking with it. I hope everybody is having a wonderful holiday period. If you're interested in playing in one of the games that I've posted, I'm going to put the link up on my show notes so that you can find them. And if I've ever gamed with you, I would really appreciate you going in and making a lovely review. Or just a short review. Some kind of review, because the more reviews I have, the more possibility that somebody's going to trust me to run a game for them. Okay? All right, and thanks so much for listening, and please take care of yourself, and I hope you have sweet dreams when you get them. Bye-bye.